What if I told you that every struggle you've ever faced, every battle you've fought against your circumstances, every single ounce of effort you have expended to change your world was completely and utterly pointless? Not because your desires are unattainable, but because you have been fighting a shadow in the dark. Tonight, you will discover the single most powerful secret known to man, a truth so simple it has been overlooked for centuries. The world is not your master, it is your mirror. And in the next 90 minutes, I will not teach you how to change the reflection you see. I will show you how to change the man or the woman who is casting it. The revelation that is coming will shatter every limitation you have ever accepted. So I ask you, are you ready to finally meet the creator of your own universe? Because the person who finishes this video will not be the same person who is starting it now. Good evening. We begin tonight's discussion by examining the most universal of all human experiences, the experience of struggle. Look deeply into your own life, into the lives of those around you, and into the grand story of humanity itself. What is the common thread? It is the narrative of conflict, of striving, of a relentless battle waged against the world. You have been taught from your first breath that life is a fight for survival, a fight for success, a fight for love, a fight for recognition. Your parents, your teachers, your society have all reinforced this single foundational belief that your reward lies at the end of a great and arduous battle. You are told to be a warrior, to push against the current, to climb the unforgiving mountain. And so you have spent your years, your energy, your very life force fighting. But have you ever paused in a moment of quiet exhaustion and asked yourself, who or what am I truly fighting? You believe you are fighting circumstances. You believe you are fighting a difficult economy, an unfair boss, an unloving partner, a frail body. You have given these things names. You have given them power. You have made them into formidable adversaries. You have accepted them as solid, independent realities that stand in opposition to your desires. And so, you engage in the great battle. You work longer hours, hoping to defeat poverty. You argue and plead, hoping to defeat loneliness. You force and you strain, hoping to defeat limitation. You are the swimmer, flailing your arms with heroic effort against a relentless current, believing the shore you seek lies upstream. With every ounce of strength, you push forward, only to find yourself carried back, exhausted and demoralized, wondering why your immense effort yields so little progress. This experience, this feeling of hitting an invisible wall, is the first sign that you have fundamentally misunderstood the nature of your world. You believe that more effort, more force, will eventually break down the barrier. But I tell you, that wall is not made of stone. It is a projection of your own consciousness. The current you are fighting is not the river of life. It is the flow of your own deep-seated beliefs. Let us explore this through an allegory. Imagine a man standing in a room. Before him is a full-length mirror, so perfectly crafted that it appears to be an open doorway into another room. In this other room, he sees a reflection of himself, a man whose face is etched with sadness and despair. Despising this image, the man decides he must change it. His first instinct is to work on the mirror itself. He believes the source of the sadness lies within the other room. So he begins to polish the glass, thinking a clearer surface might reveal a happier man. He scrubs with all his might. His effort is immense. But the sad man in the mirror simply looks back at him, now with a tired and polished sadness. Frustrated, he begins to shout at the reflection. He commands it to smile. He pleads with it, reasons with it, threatens it. He gives it lectures on the power of positive thinking. But the man in the mirror remains stubbornly, heartbreakingly sad, his lips mimicking the very shouts and pleas of the man before him. In a fit of rage, believing the image to be a separate, defiant entity, he lunges forward and strikes the glass. The mirror shatters, and for a moment, the sad man is gone. But as the pieces are swept away and a new mirror is installed, the sad man inevitably reappears exactly as he was before. The man has exhausted himself, broken his tools, and achieved nothing. He has fought the reflection, and the reflection by its very nature cannot lose, for it is not a combatant, it is a result. This is the story of humanity. This is your story. Your world is that mirror. Your bank account is a reflection. The state of your health is a reflection. The way people treat you is a reflection. Every condition, every circumstance is a perfect, unwavering reflection of the man or woman you are in consciousness. And you have spent your life trying to polish, command, and smash the mirror. Think of your efforts in your career. You work tirelessly. You network. You strategize. You are polishing the mirror. Yet, the promotion goes to someone else. The business struggles to grow. The feeling of being undervalued persists. Why? Because you are carrying the inner state, the deep-seated assumption of one who must struggle. And the mirror of your career faithfully reflects the struggle back to you, regardless of your action. Consider your relationships. You try to change the other person. You plead for them to be more loving, more understanding, more present. You are shouting at the reflection, but they only seem to become more of what you resist. Why? Because you are emanating a consciousness of being unloved or misunderstood, and they, as part of your mirrored world, have no choice but to play the part that your own state has assigned to them. You are the playwright, the director, and the actor in your own drama. Do not be surprised when the other actors read the lines you have written for them within your own soul. This is the law, and it is impersonal. What you resist persists. The more you fight the reflection of poverty, the more you are conscious of poverty, and the more poverty you will see reflected. The more you fight the reflection of illness, the more you are focused upon and identified with illness, and the more stubborn the reflection becomes. Your furious battle with the image only serves to impress the negative state deeper upon your own mind, the very mind that is casting the image in the first place. This is the frustrating, heartbreaking, maddening cycle of the man who does not know he is standing before a mirror. He is a prisoner in a cell of his own making, and the bars are not made of iron, but of his own fixed assumptions. He lives in a state of constant resistance, of tension, of anxiety. He is a man at war with himself, believing he is at war with the world. But have you not noticed in your life moments of inexplicable grace? Moments where you truly let go, where you surrendered the fight, and suddenly the thing you were striving for appeared with an effortless ease. Perhaps you had given up on finding a solution to a problem, and in that moment of release, the perfect answer flowed into your mind. Perhaps you had ceased your anxious search for love, and in that state of peaceful self-acceptance, the right person walked into your life. These are not accidents. These are not moments of random good fortune. These are moments when you, unconsciously, stopped fighting the mirror. You turned away from the reflection. You changed your inner state, even for a moment. And the mirror instantly showed you a new image. In those moments of letting go, you stumbled upon the greatest secret in the universe. You stopped trying to control everything and just breathe. And in that breath, in that surrender to the infinite intelligence within you, you found your true power. So tonight, we are not here to learn new battle tactics. We are not here to acquire a sharper sword to fight the reflection. We are here to do something far more radical, far more powerful. We are here to stop fighting altogether. We are here to understand that the entire premise of your struggle has been based on a grand illusion, the illusion that your world is separate from you. I am here to tell you that it is not. There is no out there out there. There is only you and the magnificent, obedient, and utterly impersonal mirror that is your world. So I ask you to look at your life again. Look at the stubborn problems, the recurring disappointments, the frustrating limitations. See them not as solid walls, but as reflections in the glass. Feel the exhaustion of a lifetime spent fighting them. And now, for the first time, entertain a new possibility. The possibility that the only power they have is the power you give them by believing they are real. The journey we will embark upon tonight is the journey from the reflection back to the self, from the effect back to the cause. If the fight is not with the image in the mirror, then who have you truly been fighting all this time? The answer to that question is the key to your freedom. It is the key to becoming the master of your reflection instead of its slave. And it begins not by looking harder at the mirror, but by having the courage to finally turn around. Let us now descend into the very heart of the matter. We have spoken of the frustrating reflection of the universal human experience, of struggle. Now we must examine the architecture of the prison that holds you captive. We must walk its halls, feel the coldness of its walls, and understand the mechanism of its locks. For this prison, my dear friends, is the prison of effort. From the moment you enter this world, you were handed a guidebook, a gospel preached by every tongue. It is the gospel of struggle. Your parents, with the best of intentions, taught you that you must work hard, that you must toil and sweat for your daily bread. Your teachers instructed you that success was the prize at the end of a long and difficult race, awarded only to those who tried the hardest. Your society built monuments to men and women who fought against insurmountable odds, reinforcing the narrative that greatness is born only from a painful, prolonged battle. This belief is now the bedrock of your reality. You revere effort. You romanticize the struggle. You wear your exhaustion as a badge of honor, a testament to your worthiness. You believe that the more you try, the more you deserve. And yet, you find yourselves pacing the floors of this prison, wondering why, despite your monumental effort, the freedom you seek remains an illusion. Tonight, we are here to tear that gospel to shreds. We are here to expose the great lie that has kept humanity in chains. And that lie is this, that effort is the cause of success. I tell you, it is not. In the world of creation, in the real world of consciousness, effort is a confession. It is a declaration of lack. It is the very force that bolts the door of your prison from the inside. Let us speak of what I call the law of reverse effort. This is not a mystical suggestion. It is a fundamental law of your mind, as real and as consistent as gravity. It states simply, the harder you consciously try to produce a certain state, the less you are able to do so. Your very intensity defeats your aim. You have all experienced it. Think of the simple act of falling asleep. On nights when your mind is at peace, sleep comes as a gentle visitor, uninvited. But on nights when you are anxious, when you desperately need to sleep, you lie in bed and command your mind to be still. You try to force your body to relax. You count sheep, you control your breathing, you engage in a dozen mental tricks. And what happens? Sleep becomes a distant stranger. The harder you try, the more alert you become, the more your mind races. Every ounce of effort you expend is another brick in the wall between you and the rest you desire. It is only when you finally give up, when you surrender the effort and say, I don't care anymore, that you drift away effortlessly. You did not conquer sleep, you surrendered to it. Consider the act of remembering. A name, a place is on the very tip of your tongue. You strain your mind, you grasp for it, you mentally shout into the void. What was it? The name plays coy. It dances just beyond your reach. The intensity of your search creates a mental tension that blocks the very channel through which the memory would flow. But then you do something remarkable. You give up. You turn your attention to something else. You relax your mental grip. And in that moment of non-effort, The name floats up from the depths of your consciousness, quietly and clearly. The trying prevented the recall. The release allowed it. I want you to see this principle operating in every corner of your life. For what is true of sleep and memory is true of wealth, of health, of love, of every desire that springs from the human heart. Your desperate, forceful, anxious trying is the very thing that keeps your good at bay. Imagine a man who has fallen into a Chinese finger trap. For those of you who do not know, it is a small woven cylinder. You place your index fingers into either end. The natural panic instinct is to pull your fingers out. But the harder you pull, the tighter the cylinder constricts. The more effort you apply, the more inescapable the trap becomes. A child in his frantic struggle could believe he is a prisoner for life. The solution? It is the complete opposite of effort. To escape, you must do the counterintuitive thing. You must relax and gently push your fingers inward toward each other. The moment you cease pulling and release the tension, the trap widens, and you can slip out with ease. You, my friends, are living in a metaphysical Chinese finger trap. Your desires are on the outside, and you are pulling with all your mental and physical might to reach them. But the very law of your being dictates that the harder you pull, the tighter the trap of your current reality constricts around you. The prison of effort holds you fast. Let us dissect why this is so. Why is effort the enemy of creation? It is because the universe, the greater reality, does not respond to your actions as much as it responds to your assumptions. Your state of consciousness is the only cause. When you are trying to be wealthy, you are, by definition, in the state of consciousness of not being wealthy. The trying itself is a powerful affirmation of lack. You are screaming into the mirror of the universe, I am not wealthy. I am not wealthy. And the mirror, being a perfect and faithful servant, screams back, you are not wealthy. You are not wealthy. You are testifying against yourself in the court of your own mind. Every worried thought, every anxious action, every moment of strain is you on the witness stand, presenting overwhelming evidence of your own lack. And the universe, which is the impartial judge and jury, can only deliver a verdict that matches your testimony. It sentences you to the very reality you are fighting against. This is a metaphysical crime you are committing against yourself, and the sentence is life in the prison of effort. Let me tell you a story. There was once a master sculptor, renowned throughout the land for his tireless effort. He was a man who believed that beauty could only be born from sweat and struggle. He would attack a block of marble with a furious energy, hammering and chiseling for months, even years, to wrestle a form from the stone. His works were praised, but the man himself was always exhausted, always at war with his medium. One day, a mysterious sage visited his studio. He presented the sculptor with a block of luminous, unearthly marble. This stone is different, the sage said. It is living stone. It does not respond to your chisel, but to your vision. It is not shaped by your hands, but by your feeling. Hold the perfect image of what you wish to create in your mind's eye. Feel its reality, and the stone will obey. Do not touch it. The sculptor laughed. Nonsense, he declared. Creation is a battle. It requires force, not feeling. And he refused the advice. He set the block of living marble on his pedestal and began his assault. He wanted to create an angel of perfect peace. But he attacked the stone with violence and frustration. He worked day and night, his effort a testament to his disbelief. And a strange thing happened. The more he chiseled, the more the stone seemed to resist. When he tried to carve a gentle curve, a harsh angle would appear. When he sought to form a serene face, a tormented grimace would emerge. The marble was not passive. It was actively reflecting his own inner state of struggle and doubt. The more he fought it, the more monstrous his creation became, until it was a grotesque parody of his original vision. Finally, after weeks of this maddening, fruitless labor, he was broken. He threw down his hammer, his body aching, his spirit crushed. He collapsed onto the floor of his studio, utterly defeated. He had nothing left, no energy to fight, no will to try. And in that moment of complete and total surrender, something shifted. With the noise of his effort silenced, the pure original vision of the angel of peace returned to him, not as a goal to be achieved, but as a present reality. He saw it in his mind's eye, perfect and complete. He felt the profound peace it embodied. He did not try to hold the vision. He was simply filled by it. And in that state of peaceful, effortless being, he fell asleep on the cold stone floor. When he awoke with the morning sun, he lifted his weary head, and he gasped. There on the pedestal, where the monstrous block had been, stood the angel. It was perfect, more beautiful than anything he had ever made, glowing with an inner light. Not a single chisel mark was on it. The living stone had obeyed. It had responded not to his struggle, but to his surrender. It had conformed to the vision he held in the moment. He finally stopped trying. His effort had been the only thing standing in his way. You are that sculptor. Your life is that living marble. It is not dead, external matter, to be forced into shape. It is living substance, an extension of your own consciousness, and it must, by law, conform to the vision you hold within. But for your entire life, you have been hammering and chiseling at the reflection, believing that your struggle is the cause of creation, when in truth it has been the one and only impediment, one of the symptoms of this self-imposed incarceration. Look at your life. A life of effort is a life of anxiety. It is the endless mental chatter you hear in the transcript of your own mind, the constant planning, scheming, worrying. What if this happens? What if that doesn't work? Your mind is like a frantic captain on a ship in a storm, spinning the wheel violently left and right, not realizing the ship has no rudder and responds only to the magnetic pull of the stars. A life of effort is a life of burnout. It is the deep, soul-crushing exhaustion that comes not from a day of joyful labor, but from a day of resistant, fearful pushing. It is the weariness of the swimmer fighting the current, and it is a life of almost. You almost get the contract. You almost find the perfect relationship. You almost achieve lasting health, but something always seems to get in the way. That something is you. It is your own consciousness of struggle, being faithfully projected. This is the anatomy of your prison. Its gospel is struggle. Its law is reverse effort. Its core mechanism is the confession of lack, and its result is a life of anxiety and exhaustion. But I did not come here tonight to leave you in a state of despair. I came to show you the prison so that you might recognize its walls, and having recognized them, walk right through them. For I tell you a profound truth. The door to this prison has never been locked. It has been held shut by you from the inside. The key to your freedom is not to try harder, but to redirect your effort. For there is one form of effort that is not only permissible but necessary. It is not the outward effort of action, but the inward effort of attention. The effort required to withdraw your focus from the world of problems and place it upon the world of solutions. The effort to remain faithful to an unseen reality. We have now fully examined the prison built by the gospel of struggle. We have felt its cold, hard bars, forged from the belief that you are separate from your good, but knowing the prison is the first step to leaving it. You must first stop pulling on the bars. You must stop believing the fight is necessary. You must, for the first time, simply be still. And in our next discussion, we will take the next step. We will discover the shocking truth about this mirror world, and you will understand with a clarity that will shake you to your core that there is no one keeping you in this prison. The warden, the guard, and the prisoner have always been one. In our last discussion, we explored the cold, hard walls of a prison built not of stone, but of belief, a prison where the harder you fight, the stronger the bars become. We have given this place a name, the prison of effort. We have walked its halls and felt the soul-deep exhaustion of a lifetime spent fighting a battle that cannot be won. You are now standing at a critical juncture. You have recognized the futility of your struggle. You have felt the truth in the paradox that your trying is a form of failure. This recognition brings with it a profound and unsettling silence. For if your effort is not the cause of your success, then what is? If the world is not moved by the force of your will, then what is the law that governs it? The answer to this question is the single most important discovery a human being can ever make. To grasp it is to be born again. To truly understand it is to be handed the key, not just to your prison cell, but to the kingdom of heaven itself. For there is an unseen architect, a silent law that operates with perfect mathematical precision behind the veil of your physical senses. I ask you now to set aside every lesson the world has taught you. Let go of your belief in chance, in luck, in accidents. For in the universe of which I speak, there are no accidents. There is only the flawless operation of one single magnificent principle. And that principle is this: consciousness is the one and only reality. Let that statement sink into the very marrow of your being. It is not a pretty sentiment. It is not a hopeful philosophy. It is the fundamental, unshakable truth of existence. The world which you perceive as so solid, so real, so independent of you is nothing more than a shadow. It is a projection. It is your own consciousness pushed out and made visible. The world does not create you. You create the world. Your circumstances do not define your state of being. Your state of being creates your circumstances. The world is your mirror. Now, let us not treat this as a mere metaphor. Let us treat it as the literal operational law of the universe. What are the properties of a mirror? It has no will of its own. It has no opinion, no judgment, no preference. It cannot decide to show you a happy face when you are frowning. It cannot reflect wealth when your being is steeped in poverty. It is an obedient, impersonal servant. Its one and only function is to reflect perfectly and instantly the object that stands before it. You are the object. The world is the reflection. Think of it in this way. Your consciousness is a projector, and the film running through it is your collection of assumptions, feelings, and beliefs about yourself and the world. The three-dimensional world you experience with its people, its events, its joys, and its sorrows is the screen upon which this film is projected. For your entire life, you have been living as a spectator in your own movie theater, believing the drama on the screen is real and you are its powerless observer. When you see a villain, you boo. When you see a tragedy, you weep. And when you see something you don't like, you run up to the screen and try to paint over the image. But you cannot change the movie by painting the screen. The image you fight is merely light and shadow, an effect, a ghost. The only place you can make any change is in the projection room. You must change the film. The moment you change the film of your consciousness, the image on the screen must change to conform. There is no other possibility. It is law. Let us explore the mechanics of this mirror. How is the reflection cast? Your imagination is the creative force. Every moment of your life, you are occupying a state of consciousness. A state is a collection of beliefs and feelings that you accept as true. There is a state called poverty, a state called health, a state called being unloved, a state called being successful. These are not just ideas. They are dwelling places for the soul, each with its own unique pattern of events and relationships. The world you experience It is the outpicturing of the state you habitually occupy. The people in your life are compelled to play the parts required by the script of your state. This is what is meant by the profound statement, everyone is you pushed out. The tyrant boss is not a tyrant in a vacuum. He is playing the role of tyrant because you are occupying the state of one who is oppressed. The indifferent partner is not acting independently. They are perfectly reflecting the part of you that feels unloved. This is a difficult truth to accept, for it removes all possibility of blame. It makes you entirely responsible for your world. There is no one to point to, no circumstance to curse. The buck, as they say, stops with you. It stops with your own consciousness. Let me tell you a parable. There were two twin brothers who inherited from their father two identical plots of land, side by side. The soil was the same. The sun and rain fell upon them equally. But their father, a wise man, told them on his deathbed, "This land is not like other land. It is enchanted soil. It does not grow what you plant with your hands, but what you plant with your heart. It yields a harvest not of your labor, but of your belief." The first brother, a man of the world, scoffed at this. He was a firm believer in the gospel of struggle. He saw the land as barren, stubborn, and unforgiving. He rose before the sun and worked until after dusk, tilling the soil, his brow dripping with sweat, his mind filled with worry about drought and blight. He was constantly anxious, living in the state of a man fighting a losing battle against the harsh earth, and his plot of land reflected his state. It yielded a harvest of thorns, of bitter weeds, and a few stunted, miserable fruits. The more he cursed the soil, the more he struggled, the more barren his land became. He saw his neighbor's success and grew resentful, convinced his brother had been given a better plot of land. The second brother, however, had listened to his father. He understood the secret of the enchanted soil. He did not toil in the same way. He would walk his land each morning, and instead of seeing barren earth, he would use his inner eye to see a lush, vibrant garden. He would feel the deep satisfaction of a bountiful harvest. He would smell the fragrance of imaginary blossoms and taste the sweetness of fruits yet to appear. He did not hope for it. He lived in the feeling of it already being a reality. He was a man dwelling in the state of abundance and gratitude. And his plot of land, this faithful mirror, responded without excessive labor. Seeds seemed to sprout overnight. The soil became dark and rich. The most beautiful flowers, the most delicious fruits, grew in an abundance that was miraculous to all who saw it. The land was the same. The soil was the same. The only difference was the consciousness of the gardener. You are standing on your own plot of enchanted land. Your life is that soil. What harvest are you producing? Are you, like the first brother, fighting the soil, blaming the reflection, and therefore perpetuating a reality of lack and struggle? Or are you willing to become like the second brother and understand that your true work is not done with your hands but with your imagination? Now, the greatest obstacle to accepting this truth is the evidence of your senses. This is the great deception. Your eyes see the unpaid bills. Your ears hear the doctor's negative report. Your body feels the ache of loneliness. And these senses, which you have been taught to trust above all else, scream that your current situation is the one and only reality. But I tell you, your senses are the rear-view mirror of the soul. They only report on what has been. They show you the harvest of the seeds you planted yesterday, last week, last year. Your sensory world is a world of dead facts, the crystallized residue of past states of consciousness. To live by your senses alone is to be a slave to your past. It is to let yesterday's reflection dictate tomorrow's reality. The man who wishes to change his world must develop a new set of senses, metaphysical senses. He must learn to trust his imagination more than he trusts what he sees. He must be able to feel the reality of his wish fulfilled so intensely that the facts of his current life become shadowy and unreal by comparison. You must, in the words of the scripture, call forth things that are not seen as though they were. You persist in seeing and feeling what you desire to see and feel until the mirror of your world has no choice but to reflect your new sustained inner vision. This, my friends, is the shocking discovery. The world is not what you think it is. It is not solid. It is not separate. It is fluid, malleable, and completely responsive to the state of consciousness you choose to occupy. This is a law impersonal and unwavering. It works just as consistently for what you call evil as it does for what you call good. It is a creative power that does not judge. If you habitually dwell in a state of fear, it will diligently build a world for you filled with things to be afraid of. If you dwell in a state of resentment, it will provide you with an endless parade of people and events to resent. But if you dare to dwell against all reason in the state of love, of success, of perfect health, this law must and will build that world for you in the outer sphere. This discovery is both the most liberating and the most terrifying truth a man can ever face. It is liberating because it means you are not a victim. You are not a pawn in a game played by an indifferent fate. You are the sole creative power in your universe. Your freedom is absolute, but it is also terrifying, for it means there is no one else to blame. You cannot point a finger at your parents, your past, your government, or God. The responsibility is entirely, breathtakingly yours. Every corner of your life, from the sublime to the tragic, has been brought forth from your own consciousness. You are the architect of your own joy and the forger of your own change. So, we have escaped the prison of effort, only to find ourselves in a room of mirrors. We now understand that the world is a perfect reflection and that our own consciousness is the one and only cause. This leads us to the next, and perhaps the most monumental question of all, a question upon which all your power depends. If I am the one standing before the mirror, if my own being is casting the reflection that becomes my world, who am I? We have arrived at a moment of profound significance. In our journey so far, we have dismantled the very foundations of what you once called reality. We have exposed the futility of your lifelong struggle, revealing your war with the world to be nothing more than a foolish battle with a reflection. We have unveiled the shocking truth that your world is not your master, but your perfect, impersonal mirror, faithfully showing you in every moment the contents of your own consciousness. This discovery, as liberating as it is, forces upon us a question so fundamental, so monumental, that the answer to it will determine the entire course of your future. For if the world is a mirror, and my own consciousness is the one and only cause of all that I perceive, then who, in heaven's name, am I? Do not treat this as a mere philosophical curiosity. This is the most practical question you will ever ask. Upon its answer rests everything. For if you do not know who you are, you will continue to create your world by accident. Unconsciously, you will remain a sleeper, dreaming of limitation while believing you are awake. But to truly know yourself, your true self, is to awaken from the dream and become the conscious master of your universe. It is to finally identify the man in the mirror. So tonight, we embark on an archaeological dig of the self. We will take up the tools of discernment and begin to brush away the layers of accumulated dust and debris that have hidden the golden statue of your true being for centuries. This is a process of subtraction, not addition. You do not need to become anything. You simply need to unbecome everything that you are not. Let us begin with the most obvious, the most convincing, and the most profound illusion you have ever accepted, the mask of the body. From your birth, you have been taught to identify with this physical form. You look in the mirror and say, "That is me." You feel its aches, its pleasures, its limitations, and you say, "I am in pain, I am enjoying this, I am weak." But I tell you, you are not your body. The body is something you have. It is not something you are. You say, "My body," in the same way you say, "My car" or "my house." Anything that you can possess, anything that you can observe, cannot be the essential you, the observer. Your body is a magnificent, temporary instrument through which you experience this three-dimensional world. But it is the instrument, not the musician. The musician is the consciousness that animates it. Your body is in you. You are not in your body. To identify with the garment is to forget the wearer. Let us dig deeper. We will now discard the mask of your name and your story. You say, "I am John," or "I am Mary." You believe you are the sum total of your past experiences, your triumphs, your failures, your heartbreaks, your education. You carry this story around like a heavy bag, and you believe its contents define you. But your name is merely a label for the convenience of the world of Caesar. And your story? Your story is nothing more than a record of the reflections you have cast in the mirror up until this point. It is the history of the states of consciousness you have occupied. To identify with your story is to chain yourself to the past. It is to declare that what has been must dictate what will be. But the Creator is not bound by his past creations. He is eternally free to create anew. Your story is what you did, not who you are, and what of your role. This is perhaps the most subtle and pervasive of all the masks. You believe you are a doctor, a mother, a husband, an artist, a failure, a success. You wrap your identity so tightly around these functions that you forget they are merely parts you are playing on the grand stage of life. An actor may play a king one night and a beggar the next, but he never forgets that he is the actor, not the role. I once knew a successful surgeon, a man whose entire sense of self was built upon the title doctor. He was respected, wealthy, and completely identified with his profession. It was not just what he did, it was who he was. Then, through a series of unfortunate events, he lost his license to practice medicine, and the man crumbled. He fell into a deep depression, for in his mind, if he was not the doctor, he was nothing. He had confused the temporary role he was playing with his eternal reality. Do you see? Roles are necessary for the play of life, but you are the conscious actor behind them all. To forget this is to lose yourself in the character and mistake the stage for reality. So, if you are not your body, not your name, not your story, and not your roles, who are you? Let us go deeper still into the inner world, the furniture of the mind. You believe you are your thoughts, but are you? You can observe your thoughts. You can watch them parade across the screen of your awareness, one after the other. A thought of anger may appear, followed by a thought of peace. A thought of fear may arise, and then a thought of courage. They come and go. They are transient. But you, the observer, the awareness in which these thoughts appear, you remain. You are not the passing clouds. You are the vast, unchanging sky in which they drift. And what of your emotions? You say, "I am sad," or "I am happy," but you are not. You are the consciousness experiencing the feeling of sadness or happiness. Like the weather, these feelings pass through you, but they do not define the essential you. To identify with a fleeting emotion is to believe that the sky is the storm. We must go even deeper, past all the things you appear to be, past your personality, which is merely a bundle of conditioned habits, past your intellect, which is a tool for navigating this world, but not the source of your being. We strip away everything that is observable, everything that is temporary, everything that changes, and what is left. When you have removed every label, Every role, every thought, every feeling, what remains? There is a silent, formless, unwavering awareness, a simple feeling of being. Before you are anything, you simply are. This bedrock of being, this pure consciousness is what you are. And it has a name. The name that God gave to Moses when he asked, "Who should I say sent me?" The name is I am. This is the great unveiling. This is the man in the mirror, not the body, not the mind, but the pure, unconditioned awareness of being that says I am. This I am is the only reality. It is God in you. It is the creative power of the universe, individualized as your own consciousness. When the scripture says, "I and my Father are one," it is this truth it declares. The I am in you is the same I am that is God. There is no separation. This I am is the artist, and the world is its canvas. The power of creation lies in what you attach to this I am. You have been unconsciously declaring your identity, and therefore your reality, your entire life. When you say, "I am poor," you have taken the divine name, the creative power, and fused it with the concept of poverty. And your world, that faithful mirror, must reflect the reality of the being you have declared yourself to be. When you say, "I am sick, I am lonely, I am a failure," you are making a divine decree. You are the king pronouncing a sentence upon himself, not realizing his word is law. Let me tell you another story. Imagine a great king, powerful and wise, who had an only son, the heir to his vast kingdom. As an infant, the prince was kidnapped by bandits and sold to a troop of beggars in a distant land. The boy grew up with no memory of his birthright. He believed he was a beggar. His thoughts were the thoughts of a beggar, filled with lack and survival. His feelings were the feelings of a beggar, steeped in unworthiness. His every action was that of a beggar. He would spend his days huddled at the gates of a great city, begging for scraps, never knowing that just beyond those walls was a palace that was his home. The world, being his mirror, treated him exactly as he believed himself to be. People would toss him a coin with pity or kick him aside with contempt. The reflection was perfect. He was a beggar in his own consciousness, and so he was a beggar in his world. Meanwhile, the king, his father, never stopped searching for him. After many years, he found him, a young man now, asleep in a filthy alley. The king's heart broke, not just for his son's suffering, but for his son's forgetfulness. He knew he could not simply give the boy riches, for a beggar with gold is still a beggar in his mind and would soon lose it all. The identity had to change first. So the king gently woke the boy. He did not say, "I will make you a prince." He held up a polished silver shield to the boy's face, a makeshift mirror, and for the first time the boy saw himself not through the eyes of poverty, but as he was. Then the king took the royal crown from his own head and placed it upon his son's. "Look," the king whispered, "you are not a beggar who must learn to become a prince. You are the prince, my son, who has been dreaming he is a beggar. This palace is not a gift. It is your home. This kingdom is not a reward. It is your birthright. Awaken. Remember who you are." In that instant, everything changed. The young man looked at his reflection, crowned and royal, and he remembered. It was not a process of learning, but of remembering. The beggar did not die. He was simply an illusion that dissolved in the light of truth. The man who stood up was not a beggar, becoming a prince. He was a prince who'd always been, and he walked through the city gates, not with the hope of a supplicant, but with the quiet authority of a master returning home. You are that king's son. You are divinity, dreaming that you are limited. You are the creative power of the universe, the I am, that has fallen asleep and identified with the beggar's costume of your human story. My work here tonight is not to make you into a god. It is to remind you that you already are. My work is to hold up a mirror and ask you to stop looking at the beggar's rags and to see for the first time the crown upon your head. What are the implications of this discovery? They are total. First, all seeking ends. You stop looking outside of yourself for power, for love, for security, for approval. For how can you seek what you already are? You are the source. This is the end of the exhausting spiritual search. The God you are praying to resides within you as your own wonderful human imagination. Second, all blame ends. The moment you truly know that you are the sole cause of your world, you can no longer be a victim. You can no longer point the finger. The responsibility is awesome, but the freedom it gives is absolute. You are the potter, and your life is the clay. If you do not like the vessel you have made, you do not blame the clay. You simply reshape it. And third, this is the beginning of conscious creation. You now understand that your awareness, your I am, is the creative force. You are no longer creating your world by default. Like a sleepwalker, you can begin to consciously and deliberately choose the states you wish to experience. You can stop saying, I am poor, and begin to feel what it is like to say, I am wealthy. We have now journeyed to the center. We have stripped away the false identities and looked upon the true face of the man in the mirror. It is the face of God. It is your face. Now that you know who you are, the Creator, the operant power, the King's Son, the next logical question must be answered. How does this Creator operate? How does this King reclaim his kingdom? How do you use the power that is your birthright to consciously change the reflection in the mirror of your world? That is the art of assumption, the art of living from the end. And it is the subject we shall turn to in our next discussion. You are now standing at the precipice of a new life. The discovery of your true self is the greatest revelation a man can experience. But this discovery is not the end of the journey. It is the true beginning. The question now becomes, how does this Creator operate? If this truth resonates within the depths of your being, if you feel the stirring of a power you had long forgotten, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. This is not merely a channel. It is a classroom for the awakened Creator. By subscribing, you declare your commitment to mastering the art of conscious creation. Now, let us continue and learn the very language that this Creator speaks. In our last discussion, we undertook the most important journey a man can ever take, the journey inward to the center of his own being. We stripped away the masks of the body, the name, the story, and the roles you play. We moved past the transient clouds of thought and emotion, and we arrived at the vast silent sky behind them. And there, in that stillness, we discovered your true identity. Not a man, not a woman, not a creature of circumstance, but the Creator, the unconditioned awareness of being, whose name is and has always been I am. You are the King's Son who has remembered his royalty. You are the sculptor who has realized the marvel of life is alive and responds not to force, but to vision. You are the one and the only one standing before the mirror of your world. And so, this awakened Creator, this remembered King, now stands before his creation and asks a profoundly practical question. Now that I know who I am, how do I operate? What are my tools? By what means do I change the reflection in the mirror? Does the Creator work through intense logical thought? Many believe this. They believe if they can just construct the perfect mental blueprint, the world will conform. But thought alone is cold, sterile. It is the architect's drawing without the builder. A blueprint of a palace is not the palace. It has no life, no substance. Does the Creator then work through physical action, through the effort we have already exposed as a prison? No. Action is the domain of the reflection, not the cause. To act without first changing the inner self is to be the sculptor hammering at the living marble, creating only monstrous parodies of his intent. The awakened creator uses neither thought nor action as his primary tool. He uses a faculty far more subtle, far more powerful. He communicates with the mirror of his world through a silent universal language, the language that the universe, God, and your own subconscious mind understand not as a suggestion, but as a command. That language, my friends, is feeling. Feeling is the secret. It is the alpha and omega of creation. It is not what you think that creates your world. It is what you feel to be true. An assumption, a thought without feeling is powerless. But an assumption that is clothed in the feeling of its own reality is irresistible. It is the Word made flesh. Now, we must be very clear. When I speak of feeling, I am not speaking of the turbulent, reactive emotions that flicker across the surface of your daily life, the flash of anger in traffic, the fleeting moment of joy at good news. These are the ripples on the surface of the ocean, the weather patterns of the soul. They are effects, not causes. The creative feeling I speak of is a deeper current. It is a sustained, quiet, inner conviction. It is the tone of reality. It is the feeling of naturalness, the feeling of certainty that accompanies an accepted truth. It is the feeling of what it is like for your wish to be a present, accomplished fact. Think of it this way. Your consciousness is a broadcasting station. Your thoughts and desires may select the program you wish to play, but your feeling state is the frequency upon which you broadcast. The universe is the receiver. It cannot hear the program you wish to broadcast. It can only pick up the frequency you are actually emitting. You can sit all day and think, I wish I were broadcasting on the frequency of wealth, but if your entire being is vibrating with the feeling frequency of lack, then lack is the only signal the universe can receive and reflect back to you as your reality. You cannot think your way to a new frequency. You must feel your way there. Let us dissect the anatomy of this creative feeling, this language of the mirror. It is not a singular thing. It is a full-bodied sensory experience in imagination. To truly feel the wish fulfilled is to engage the senses of your soul. What would your world look like if your desire were true? What would you hear? What would you touch? What would you smell? The more sensory vividness you can give to your imaginal scene, the more real it becomes. If you desire a home by the sea, do not just think, I want a home by the sea. That is a powerless prayer of a beggar. Instead, stand in that home in your imagination. See the sunlight glinting off the water through your window. Hear the sound of the waves. Smell the salt in the air. Feel the cool ocean breeze on your skin. These sensory details give your assumption the tones of reality. They clothe your desire in the flesh of actual experience. Another crucial aspect of this feeling is the feeling of naturalness. So many make the mistake of trying to generate a state of ecstatic, high-pitched excitement. But think about the things you truly possess. Do you feel ecstatic all day long that you own your clothes or that you know your own name? No. It feels natural. It is simply a quiet, accepted part of your reality. This is the feeling you must cultivate. Your desire fulfilled should not feel like a startling miracle. It should feel as normal and as natural as the rising of the Sunday. It should feel like coming home. And perhaps most potently, there is the feeling of relief. Think about it. In the state of wanting, there is tension. In the state of striving, there is anxiety. But in the state of having, there is relief, the sigh of satisfaction, the quiet peace that comes when the search is over. This feeling of it is done is one of the most creative feelings you can cultivate. When you can truly feel the relief of your problem being solved, your creation is finished. Let me tell you a story to illustrate this silent language. There was once a young pianist A prodigy of immense technical skill, his fingers could fly across the ivory keys with a precision that was breathtaking. He entered the most prestigious music competition in the world, playing a piece by Chopin, known for its passionate, heartbreaking beauty. He executed every note perfectly. His timing was flawless, his technique impeccable. The audience and the judges listened in silence, and when he finished, they offered polite, respectful applause. But no one was moved. His performance was a perfect blueprint, a technically flawless execution, but it was cold. It was lifeless. He had played the notes, but he had missed the music. Dejected, he was sitting backstage when the oldest and most revered judge, a blind master musician, came and sat beside him. "Young man," the old master said, "your hands are brilliant, but your heart is silent. You did not play Chopin tonight. You merely played the key, but every note was perfect." The young man protested. "Perfection is not the goal," the master replied. "Communication is. Music is not a collection of notes. It is a feeling transmitted through the medium of sound. The secret is not in what you play, but in what you feel while you are playing. Go home. Do not touch your piano for a week. Instead, I want you to live inside the music. I want you to feel the longing, the heartbreak, the transcendent joy of Chopin's soul. Do not practice the notes. Practice the feeling." The young man was confused, but he obeyed. For a week, he sat in silence, meditating on the music. He allowed the feeling of the piece to saturate his entire being. He became the heartbreak. He became the joy. When he returned to the stage for the final round, something was different. From the moment he touched the keys, the air in the hall changed. He played the very same piece, perhaps with even a few technical imperfections this time. But it was no longer a performance. It was a transmission. The feeling in his soul flowed through his fingers and into the hearts of everyone present. Men and women wept, not because the music was sad, but because it was so profoundly, breathtakingly true. He was no longer a technician. He was a channel for a living, breathing emotion. He had learned the silent language. You are that musician. Your life is your instrument. For years you have been playing the technical notes of action and logical thought, wondering why the music of your life is so flat, so uninspired. You have been trying to impress the world with your flawless execution of effort. But the world, the great audience, is only moved by feeling. Your world is not a critic of your actions. It is a perfect resonator of your feeling state. Now, we come to the great obstacle. You ask, but how can I feel wealthy when my senses show me an empty bank account? How can I feel healthy when my body aches? How can I feel love when I am alone? Here, you must make a choice. What is real? The shadow or the thing casting it? The reflection or the man? The echo of your past feelings or the new feeling you choose to occupy now? To let the evidence of your senses dictate your feeling is to be the musician who lets the silence of the crowd determine the music he plays. It is a reversal of the creative process. It is to grant supremacy to the effect over the cause. The true creator is an actor of the highest order. He stands in the midst of lack and feels abundance. He stands in the face of discord and feels harmony. He does this not as an act of pretense or self-deception, but as an act of divine authority. He does not ask the mirror for permission to smile. He smiles and knows the mirror must smile back. This is what is meant by faith. Faith is not a blind hope. It is loyalty to the unseen reality of your feeling state. This, then, is your true creative work. It is not the hard labor of the world of Caesar. It is the cultivation of feeling. It is the discipline to return again and again to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. When the world shouts at you that you are poor, you must quietly, inwardly return to the feeling of security. When people reflect back to you loneliness, you must retreat to the inner sanctuary of your mind and feel the warmth of love. This is why the state akin to sleep is so powerful. In that drowsy meditative state, the tyrant of your conscious mind and his five sensory spies begin to grow quiet. The roar of the outer world fades. In that stillness, you can finally hear the whispers of your soul. You can speak the language of feeling clearly without the world's noisy contradiction. You can impress upon your deeper mind the reality you choose, and that deeper mind, which knows nothing of the world's illusion, accepts your feeling as fact and begins the work of objectifying it in the mirror. We have now discovered the language of creation. We know that to change the reflection, we must speak to the mirror, not with words of want, but in the silent, powerful tongue of feeling. We have learned that this feeling is not a fleeting emotion, but a sustained sensory conviction of our wish already being a fact. But to know a language is one thing. To be fluent in it is another. How do we consciously form sentences in this language? How do we construct a feeling state so clear and so true that the universe must obey it as a command? This requires us to master the specific grammar of creation, the very syntax of the soul. And that is what I call the art of assumption. We have journeyed far. We began as prisoners of effort, fighting a world we believed to be our master. We then made the shocking discovery that this world is but a mirror, a reflection of our own consciousness. We have since journeyed inward, past the masks of flesh and story, to find the true identity of the one casting that reflection, the divine creator, the timeless awareness whose name is I Am. And just now we have learned the silent universal language this creator uses to communicate with his mirror, not the clumsy, contradictory language of words, nor the futile language of force, but the pure, undeniable language of feeling. We are now standing at the threshold of conscious creation. We know who we are. We know the language we must speak. The final piece of the puzzle is to learn the grammar of this divine language. How do you form a sentence of feeling so clear, so potent, that the mirror of your world has no choice but to reflect it as an accomplished fact? This, my friends, is the great secret. It is the art and practice of assumption. What do I mean by assumption? Let us be very clear. An assumption is not a hope. Hope is a beggar, pleading with the reflection to change. Hope contains within it the seed of doubt. It admits the possibility of failure. An assumption is not a wish. A wish is a confession that you do not have. An assumption is an act of divine authority. It is the conscious, deliberate act of claiming a state to be true now, regardless of the opposition of your senses. It is to look upon the reflection of lack and, without asking permission, to feel the reality of abundance. It is to look upon the reflection of loneliness and dare to feel the warmth of companionship. An assumption is the acceptance of the end. It is to live in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Think of yourself as a divine actor. The world is your stage. You have been unconsciously playing the part of the beggar, the victim, the struggler. And you have played the part so convincingly that you have forgotten you are acting. The art of assumption is the art of consciously choosing a new role. You do not hope to become the king. You put on the royal robes of the feeling of kingship, and you begin to think and act from that role. The world, which is your audience, has no choice but to respond to the character you have so convincingly assumed. There are two primary ways to practice this art: the waking assumption and the sleeping assumption. The waking assumption is the practice of living from the end throughout your day. It is a constant, quiet, inner orientation. It is not about pretending or putting on a show for others. It is about a shift in your inner dialogue and reaction. For example, the man who is trying to become wealthy is constantly worried about money. He is anxious. He looks at prices on a menu with fear. He is playing the part of a poor man trying to be rich. But the man who has assumed he is wealthy thinks differently. He thinks from the state of wealth. He may have no more money in his pocket than the first man, but his inner state is different. He is not anxious. He feels a sense of security. He looks upon the world not as a threat, but as his possession. He walks differently. He speaks differently. He is rehearsing the feeling of his fulfilled desire, and the world, the mirror, begins to subtly shift and change to accommodate this new man. This waking assumption is a powerful discipline, but the most potent, the most direct method for impressing your new reality upon the world is what I call the sleeping assumption. It is the master technique. It is the act of using the state akin to sleep stats as the gateway to creation. Let us now enter the Creator's workshop and learn this technique step by step, for it is the key that unlocks all doors. First, you must know exactly what you want. Be clear and specific. Vague desires produce vague reflections. Do not just say, I want to be happy. What does happiness look like to you? Define it. See it clearly. Is it a successful career? A loving family? Perfect health? Define your objective. Second, you must construct a simple, brief scene in your imagination, which implies the fulfillment of your desire. This is the most crucial step. You do not imagine the process of getting your desire. That implies it is still in the future. You imagine a short, simple event that would naturally happen after your desire has been realized. The event must feature you, and it must be an action. If you desire a promotion, do not imagine your boss telling you you are promoted. That is the event itself. Instead, imagine a friend congratulating you. Feel their handshake. Hear them say, congratulations on your promotion, and feel the thrill of your reply. Thank you. It feels wonderful. Do you see? The congratulation implies the promotion is already an accomplished fact. If you desire marriage, do not imagine a proposal. That is a future event. Instead, do a very simple thing in your imagination. Feel a wedding band on your fourth finger, left hand. Just feel it. Tense your finger and feel its solid circular reality. That simple sensory act implies everything. It implies you are happily married. If you desire a new home, do not imagine searching for it. Imagine you are already living in it. Stand in the living room and feel the texture of your favorite chair. Look out the window at a familiar view. This implies ownership. Third, every night, just as you are preparing for sleep, get into a state of complete physical relaxation. Lie on your back and immobilize your body. Feel as though you cannot move a finger. This physical stillness helps to induce a mental stillness. This is the state akin to sleep, that drowsy, hypnotic state, where your conscious reasoning mind begins to recede. The guard at the gate of the subconscious is falling asleep. Fourth, in this drowsy state, bring up your predetermined imaginal scene. Do not watch it as if on a movie screen. Enter it. You are the actor. See it through your own eyes. Feel the handshake. Feel the ring. Feel the chair. Make it intensely sensory and vivid. Loop this short scene over and over again, like a lullaby. Do not strain. Do not use effort. Gently, passively, repeat the scene. As you repeat the scene, it will begin to take on the tones of reality. You will feel the satisfaction, the relief, the joy of it being done. You are speaking the language of feeling directly to your deeper mind, without the interference of your skeptical intellect. And the final fifth step is this: fall asleep in that state. As you lose consciousness of the outer world, let your last waking sensation be the feeling of your wish fulfilled. This is the sacred act of impregnation. You are planting the seed of your new reality in the fertile, dark soil. of your subconscious mind. And that which you impress upon the subconscious in sleep, it is compelled to objectify in the mirror of your waking world. Let me tell you a story of this art in practice. A lady used to attend my lectures in New York. She was a woman in her late 40s, and her deepest desire was to be happily married. For years, she had lived in the state of loneliness. The mirror of her world faithfully reflected this, showing her a life devoid of romantic companionship. She had tried everything the world suggests. She went to social gatherings. She forced herself to be outgoing, but she was a woman hammering at the reflection. I told her of this art. I instructed her to stop all outward seeking and to begin her creative work within. Every night, without fail, she was to practice this technique. Her scene was simple. She would lie in bed, and in her imagination, she would feel a wedding band on her finger. She would not create an elaborate drama. She just felt the simple, solid reality of that ring. Over and over, she would feel the ring until the feeling of being a married woman became her nightly lullaby. Weeks passed. One day, she was walking down the street, and she felt a powerful, inexplicable urge to enter a high-end department store. She was not a wealthy woman, but she did not question the feeling. She followed this inspired impulse. She found herself in the bridal salon, surrounded by beautiful wedding gowns. Her reason screamed at her that she was being foolish, but she was no longer living from reason. She was living from her assumption. She saw a simple, elegant dress. She tried it on. It fit perfectly. And with a calm certainty that defied all logic, she used a significant portion of her savings to purchase that dress. Her family thought she had lost her mind. Why would you do such a thing? They asked. You are not even dating anyone. But she simply smiled and said, I know what I am doing. She took the dress home and hung it in her closet. To her, it was not an act of hope. It was a testament. It was an outer confirmation of her inner, assumed reality. She had smiled and was now waiting for the mirror to smile back. Less than a month later, she attended a small dinner party, a party she had initially decided not to go to. There, she was reacquainted with a man she had known distantly for years. They spoke, and a connection was made that was instant and profound. It was, as they both described it, like coming home. 3 months later, he proposed, and at her wedding, she wore the very dress that had been hanging in her closet, a silent witness to the power of a sustained assumption. Do you see the mechanics? She did not get a husband and then feel like a wife. She assumed the feeling of being a wife, and that assumption persisted in, rearranged her world to match it, even using her own inspired actions as part of the bridge of incidents to bring it to pass. Now, as you practice this art, you must be aware of the common pitfalls that will try to pull you back into the prisoner's mindset. The first is the mistake of watching for results. After you have planted your seed in the subconscious, you must leave it alone. To constantly look for outer signs is to be the anxious gardener digging up his seed. This act is rooted in doubt. It is a confession that you do not truly believe the seed will sprout. The second is the mistake of discussing your assumption with others. Your imaginal act is a sacred, secret affair between you and your own creator self. To speak of it to the uninitiated is to dissipate its creative energy. You risk having their doubts, their well-meaning skepticism reflected back at you, which can weaken your own conviction. Go, tell no man. And third is the mistake of wavering. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot spend 5 minutes at night assuming you are wealthy, and then spend the next day steeped in the feeling of lack and fear. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. You must be loyal to your new state. When thoughts of doubt arise, as they will, you do not fight them. You simply, gently return your attention to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You must persist until the assumption becomes your dominant natural state. This, then, is the art of changing your reflection. It is not pretense. It is the highest form of prayer. It is not an escape from reality. It is the creation of it. You have a divine right to assume the state you desire to experience, for you are the creator of your world. Creation is finished. All states already exist. You are not making something from nothing. You are simply moving into a room that is already fully furnished. We have now learned the grammar of God, the sacred art of assuming a state until it becomes your dominant feeling. We have placed the new, desired film in the projector of consciousness. But what is the final, crucial step that ensures this film will play without interruption? What is the act that protects the seed we have just planted? This is the step most people neglect, and it is the key to effortless manifestation. It is the divine art of non-interference. It is the entrance into what the ancients called the Sabbath. We have now arrived at the pinnacle of the creative act. We have journeyed inward to discover the Creator, the I Am. We have learned the silent language of creation, which is feeling, and we have just practiced the sacred grammar of that language through the art of assumption. You have stood before the mirror of your mind. You have disregarded the reflection of the world of Caesar, and with divine authority, you have assumed a new face, a new reality. In the fertile darkness of the state akin to sleep, you have planted a seed. You have impressed the subconscious mind with the feeling of your wish fulfilled. The creative act is complete. And so, the conscious, reasoning mind, the man of the world, immediately asks, what now? What must I do to make it happen? How do I help it along? How do I ensure its success? And I tell you, the answer to that question is the most radical, the most profound, and for many, the most difficult instruction of all. The answer is, you do nothing. You have completed your work. Now you must enter the sacred state of rest. You must enter what the ancient mystics called the Sabbath. The Sabbath, as taught in the scriptures, is not a day of the week. It is not a 24-hour period of physical inactivity. It is a psychological state. It is a mystery. The Bible tells us that after creating the world in 6 days, on the seventh day God rested. Ask yourself, did God rest because he was weary? Did the infinite, formless awareness grow tired? Of course not. He rested because the work was finished. Creation was complete. To continue to work would be to imply that the creation was imperfect, that something was lacking. The rest was a sign of completion, of perfect satisfaction. This is the Sabbath you must learn to enter. It is not the rest of a lazy man, nor the rest of a defeated man. It is the rest of a master creator. It is the quiet, confident, peaceful state of knowing that what you have done in consciousness is a finished, perfect fact, which must now objectify itself in the mirror of your world. It is the art of trusting the reflection to change. But this, for many, is the hardest part. The world has trained you to be a meddler. It has taught you that if you are not actively doing something, then nothing is getting done. Your conscious mind is a restless, anxious parent, and your desire is its child. You want to check on it constantly, to prod it, to guide it, to protect it. But the greatest act of love you can show your newborn creation is to leave it alone. Let us return to our analogy of the seed. You, the master gardener, have carefully chosen a seed, your desire. You have tilled the soil of your mind, making it receptive through relaxation. You have planted the seed through a vivid, feeling-toned, imaginal act. Now, what does any wise gardener do? He waters the seed with faith, and then he walks away. He trusts the darkness. He trusts the process of germination which is hidden from his eyes. He knows that the seed contains within itself all the intelligence it needs to become the mighty oak or the beautiful rose. But the anxious gardener, the man who does not understand the Sabbath, is filled with doubt. The moment he plants the seed, he begins to worry. Is it growing? Did I do it right? Maybe I should dig it up just to check. And so, with his frantic, well-meaning interference, he exposes the delicate seed to the harsh light. He disturbs its roots, and he kills the very thing he wishes to create. Your doubts, your fears, your constant watching for results is you, digging up your seed. Every time you look at your 3D world and say, it hasn't happened yet, you are digging up your seed. Every time you feel the pang of anxiety and wonder how it will ever happen, you are digging up your seed. The Sabbath is the spiritual discipline of keeping your hands off the soil. It is the state of profound trust in the unseen process. Let me tell you a story. In an ancient port city, there lived a great merchant who had amassed his fortune by sending ships to distant exotic lands. One day, he outfitted his finest vessel, the Starlight, with his most trusted captain and crew. He loaded it with goods and sent it on the longest, most perilous, and potentially most profitable journey of his career. The day the ship sailed beyond the horizon, the merchant's creative act was complete. He had done everything in his power. But this journey was different. His entire fortune was at stake. And so, he broke the law of the Sabbath. He became an anxious gardener. Every single morning, he would climb to the highest watchtower in the city and stare out at the empty sea, his stomach churning with anxiety. He was not living in the state of a successful merchant, awaiting a triumphant return. He was living in the state of a man who feared he had lost everything. His anxiety grew. He began to send smaller, faster messenger ships out, trying to intercept the Starlight to check on its progress. These smaller boats were a nuisance to the captain, cluttering the sea lanes and carrying messages of the merchant's own fear and doubt. Back home, the merchant's other businesses began to suffer. His mind was not on his current work. It was consumed by the ship. He was a man possessed by a future he was trying to force, and a present he was neglecting. His father, an old and wise man who had long since retired, watched this for weeks. Finally, he climbed the tower and found his son, weary and hollow-eyed, staring at the horizon. "Son," the old man said gently, "what are you doing?" "I am watching for my ship," the merchant cried. "My entire fortune depends on it." "No," his father replied, "you are not watching for its arrival. You are living in the profound feeling of its absence. You are testifying with every fiber of your being that it is not here. When you launched that great ship, your work was done. Did you not choose the best captain, the strongest vessel, the truest course?" "I did," the merchant admitted. "Then you must trust the captain, the vessel, and the sea. They know the way home. Your place is not in this watchtower of fear. Your place is in the marketplace, living as the great merchant you are, secure in the knowledge that your fortune is already multiplied. Descend from this tower. Enter your Sabbath. Live as though the ship is already safe in the harbor, its treasures already in your vault." The merchant argued, his rational mind fighting against this radical advice. But his exhaustion won. He agreed. He descended from the watchtower and forbade himself from returning. He forced himself to turn his attention to his other affairs. He began to act and feel from the end. He made decisions as a man whose wealth was assured. It was difficult at first, but slowly, a quiet confidence replaced his anxiety. He had entered his Sabbath. Many weeks later, as he was calmly conducting his business in the city, a boy ran up to him, breathless with excitement. "Master," the boy shouted, "the Starlight has been sighted. Her sails are full, and she sits so low in the water she must be overflowing with treasure." The merchant felt a deep, peaceful joy, but not surprise. For in his heart, in the quiet Sabbath of his soul, the ship had come home weeks ago. You are that merchant. Your desire is that ship. You have launched it perfectly in your imagination. Now you must have the courage and the wisdom to descend from the watchtower of anxious expectation. You must stop scanning the horizon of your senses for a sign. You must enter your own marketplace and live now in the reality of your wish fulfilled. To do this, you must be aware of the three great thieves that will try to rob you of your Sabbath rest. The first is the thief of impatience. This is the tyrant of when. Your conscious mind, accustomed to the slow, linear time of the shadow world, will demand a schedule. It will want to know the date and hour of arrival. But creation is finished. In the real world of consciousness, your desire is already an accomplished fact. To ask when is to deny that it is. It is to push your desire back out into the future. When the thought of when arises, you must gently dismiss it and return to the feeling of now. It is already so. The second is the thief of reason. This is the voice of your five senses, the loud and convincing liar. It will point to your empty bank account, to your empty home, to your aching body, and it will say, look, nothing has changed. You are a fool for believing this. This is the greatest test. You must remember that your senses are the rear view mirror, reflecting only the past. To trust them is to break your Sabbath. Your loyalty must be to the unseen reality within. You must be like the woman who bought the wedding dress, acting upon the inner knowing, not the outer appearance. The third is the thief of interference. This is the subtle but powerful urge to help God, to help the law along. You have planted the seed, and now you think, maybe if I just make this phone call or force this meeting, it will speed things up. You must learn to distinguish between the forced, anxious action that comes from doubt and the natural, inspired action that unfolds from a state of trust. When you are truly in the Sabbath, you will be moved to act at the right time, in the right way. It will feel effortless, obvious, and natural. That is inspired action. But any action born of anxiety, any feeling that you must make it happen, is the work of this thief, and it will disturb the divine process. So how do you know you have truly entered the Sabbath? There are clear, unmistakable signs. The first sign is a feeling of relief. The tension is gone. The heavy burden of needing to make something happen has been lifted. You feel a quiet peace. The second sign is a curious lack of concern. You may even find yourself forgetting about your desire for long periods, not because you no longer want it, but because the underlying assumption that it is yours is so complete, so natural, that it no longer occupies the foreground of your mind. Do you spend your day worrying about whether you will breathe? No, you simply breathe. Your desire must become that natural to you. The third and most definitive sign is a quiet confidence. It is not an arrogant or loud state. It is a deep, unshakable inner knowing. You are not hoping. You are not wishing. You simply know. And from this knowing, you can watch the drama of the world unfold, including all the contrary evidence, with a divine indifference. Serene in the knowledge that your reality is already a fact. This, then, is the sacred pause, the test of your faith in the one and only Lord. We have learned to plant the seed in the art of assumption. Now, in the Sabbath, we learn to trust the darkness, knowing that the creative power is at work. But what precisely is happening in the world of light and shadow while we rest? How does the unseen seed of our assumption break through the hard soil of our physical reality? This is the mystery of the unfolding, the divine mechanism that connects the inner world to the outer reflection. And it is what I call the bridge of incident. We have journeyed through the most critical yet most passive stage of creation, the Sabbath. We have learned that after the seed of our assumption is planted in the fertile ground of the subconscious, our true work is to do nothing. It is to rest in the quiet confidence that it is finished. It is to descend from the watchtower of anxious expectation and to trust the darkness, knowing that a divine and intelligent process has been set in motion. But this very trust raises the most pressing question for the rational mind. If I do nothing, then how does anything happen? How does the immaterial feeling in my heart become a solid fact in my world? How does the ship, launched in the harbor of my imagination, actually arrive at the shore of my physical reality? The answer lies in the understanding of what I call the bridge of incidents. This is the mechanism of the mirror. The mirror of your world does not typically shatter and instantly reform into your new reality, although that is possible. More often and more beautifully, it rearranges itself, it shifts and reorders the events of your life through a series of seemingly normal, natural, and logical occurrences that, when viewed in retrospect, form a perfect and undeniable pathway from your old reality to your new one. This bridge is not something you build. It is not something you plan or engineer. The bridge unfolds before you as a direct consequence of your sustained assumption. Your only job is to walk across it. Let us be very clear about the nature of this bridge. It will not feel supernatural. The universe or God works through the natural world. Your desire will not fall from the sky. It will come through a phone call you were not expecting. It will come through a chance encounter with a stranger on a street corner. It will come through a sudden, compelling idea that seems to spring from nowhere. It will come through a door that was previously closed, suddenly swinging open. The bridge is built with the very stuff of your daily life. People, places, conversations, and events. Think of it in this way. Your sustained assumption is like setting a destination in a divine navigation system. You have declared with the authority of your feeling state, I am at my destination. The infinite intelligence of your deeper self, the God within, then calculates the most direct and harmonious route to make your physical self congruent with your imaginal self. It does not teleport you. It begins to issue a series of simple, step-by-step instructions. Turn left here. Take this street. Exit now. Each of these instructions is an incident on the bridge. To your conscious mind, it may just seem like a random urge or a coincidence, but to the greater intelligence that is guiding you, it is a perfectly calculated step on the path to your predetermined end. Perhaps the clearest way for me to illustrate this is to share with you a story from my own life, a time when I was compelled to walk across a bridge that my reason would have deemed impossible. I was in New York City, a young man, and it was the dead of winter. My desire was singular and intense, to be in Barbados with my family for Christmas. But the reflection in the mirror of my world was grim. I had no money, I had no job, and passage on a ship to Barbados was notoriously difficult to secure at that time of year. Every fact of my reality testified to the impossibility of my desire. Following the law as I had come to understand it, I stopped fighting the reflection. I stopped bemoaning my lack of funds. I entered the workshop of my mind. Every night, for 7 nights, I did not imagine myself traveling to Barbados. That would have been a confession that I was not there. Instead, I lay in my bed in New York, and I assumed I was sleeping in my family's home in Barbados. I did not just think about it. I was there. I could smell the salty air of the Caribbean. I could feel the familiar warmth of the tropical night. I looked out the window of my imagination and saw the palm trees and the sea, not the brick walls of a New York winter. I saturated my mind with the sensory vividness of already being there. I felt the joy, the peace, the feeling of home, and then I would fall asleep in that state. My creative act was complete. I had launched my ship. Having done so, I entered my Sabbath. I did nothing in the outer world to bring it to pass. I did not ask anyone for money. I did not desperately seek a job. I went about my days in New York, but I was living inwardly in Barbados. And then the bridge began to appear. The first plank was a letter from my brother Victor, who was in Barbados. In the letter, he wrote something that made no logical sense. He assumed I was already coming home for Christmas and was simply lamenting that I would have to travel third class. The letter ended with a strange instruction from my teacher Abdullah. He had told my brother, "You must tell Neville that he is in Barbados." My reason could have dismissed this as a misunderstanding, but my inner self, the one who had been living in Barbados, recognized it as the first instruction from the divine navigator. Turn left here. The next plank on the bridge was a sudden, compelling urge, an inspired action. I was moved to go down to the shipping offices, even though I did not have a single dollar for a ticket. I did not go as a beggar hoping for a handout. I walked in as a man who was traveling to Barbados. I asked for passage. The man behind the counter told me what I already knew. The ships were completely full, but I was not moved. I was living from the end. There must be a cancellation, I stated, not as a hope, but as a quiet fact. The man, moved by my strange certainty, told me to come back. The days passed. The bridge continued to unfold. I received a letter from another brother, this one containing a small sum of money, a Christmas gift. It was not enough for a ticket, but it was a piece of the puzzle. Then, one morning, I received a call from the shipping company. A third-class passage had become available. They would hold it for me. Here was the final test. I had the booking, but I still did not have the full fare. But I did not waver. I was already in Barbados. The details of how were not my concern. I packed my single suitcase, and that very day, a final letter arrived. It contained a draft for $50 from a friend, another Christmas gift with a note wishing me a wonderful trip. It was exactly what I needed. I went down, paid for my third-class ticket, and boarded the ship. And as a final beautiful and almost humorous turn on the bridge, when I went to my third-class cabin, I found that I had been bumped up to first class. I sailed to Barbados in luxury, arriving just as I had imagined. Now, look at that story. To a critic, it is a series of lucky breaks and coincidences. But to one who understands the law, it was a flawless unfolding. It was a bridge of incidents, paid by my sustained assumption. Notice that I did not build the bridge. I did not conjure the money or the ticket. I simply remained faithful to my destination. And the bridge appeared plank by plank, and I had the faith to walk across it. This leads us to the crucial distinction between forced action and inspired action. Forced action is the enemy of the Sabbath. It is born of doubt. It is the anxious feeling that I have to do something or this won't happen. It is the merchant sending out his messenger ships. It is you, after your imaginal act, immediately picking up the phone to force a meeting or sending a nervous email to check in. Forced action feels like a struggle. It is you trying to build the bridge yourself. It is a confession that you do not trust the law to build it for you. Inspired action, on the other hand, is the act of walking across the bridge. It is born of your assumption. It feels natural, effortless, even obvious. It is a sudden urge, a compelling idea, a coincidence that puts you in the right place at the right time. It does not feel like a struggle. It feels like the next logical step. It felt natural for the woman in our previous story to buy the wedding dress. It felt natural for me to go to the shipping office. When you act from inspiration, you feel as though you are being moved, not as though you are pushing. How can you tell the difference? Ask your heart. Does this impulse feel tense and anxious, or does it feel calm and right? Is it born of the fear that it won't happen, or the knowing that it is happening? Your feeling state is your unerring guide. Now, we must speak of the illusion of time. The interval of time between your assumption and its physical fulfillment is simply the time it takes to walk across the bridge of incidents. It is the necessary gestation period. A child takes 9 months An oak tree takes decades. A mustard seed takes but a season. Every desire has its own appointed hour to bloom. To be impatient is to question the law. It is to be the child who plants a seed and demands a full-grown tree by morning. Your work is not to collapse time, but to be indifferent to it. You do this by living so fully in the now of your assumption that the when of its appearance becomes irrelevant. When you truly feel you are in Barbados, you do not wonder when you will get there. You are already there. But what happens when the bridge seems to lead you in a strange or even opposite direction? What happens when, after assuming success, you lose your job? What happens when, after assuming a loving relationship, the person walks away? This is the ultimate test of faith. You must understand that the divine navigator sees the entire map while you see only the next turn. The quickest route from New York to London may sometimes require you to first fly south to avoid a storm. The loss of your job may be the universe clearing the way for a far greater opportunity you could not have conceived. The departure of one person may be necessary to make room for the right person to enter. You are the general of your reality. And a great general sometimes makes a strategic retreat in one area to secure a greater victory in another. You must trust the general within you. You must know that all things are working together for the good of your fulfilled assumption. Persist. If you remain faithful to your end, your world must conform. The bridge will always lead you home, even if the path contains unexpected detours. So this is the great unfolding. This is how the mirror changes, not in a flash of lightning, but in the quiet, orderly, and perfectly natural procession of events that are drawn into your world by the magnetic power of your sustained assumption. We have planted the seed in the art of assumption. We have learned to trust the darkness in the Sabbath, and now we have learned to recognize and walk across the beautiful bridge of incidents that appears before us. And so we arrive at our final destination. What is it like to live permanently on the other side of the bridge? What is the consciousness of the man who no longer needs to build bridges to his desires because he knows he is already living in his desired reality? This is the state of the master creator. This is the ultimate goal of our journey tonight. This is the art of living as the master of the mirror. Tonight, we have undertaken the greatest journey possible for a human being. We began in the darkness of the prison of effort, fighting shadows on a wall. We were awakened by the shocking discovery that the world is our mirror. We journeyed inward to find the true face in that mirror, the divine creator, the I Am. We learned the silent language of creation, which is feeling, and the sacred grammar of that language, the art of assumption. We rested in the divine confidence of the Sabbath, and we watched with wonder as the bridge of incidents unfolded before us, leading us out of our old reality. And so we have crossed the bridge. We have arrived. But where have we arrived? There is no new land, no physical destination. The arrival is an inner one. It is an arrival at a new center of being. It is the final, permanent shift in identity, from the one who is reflected to the one who reflects. This is the state of the master. This is what it means to live as the master of the mirror. The journey is over, not because there is nowhere else to go, but because you have realized you are and always have been the destination you were seeking. The master of the mirror no longer needs to build bridges to his desires, for he understands that all places are here and all times are now in consciousness. He no longer seeks to travel to his desired state. He simply occupies it by right. To live as the master is to embody three great and fundamental shifts in perception. Shifts so profound they constitute a second birth. The first great shift is from seeking to radiating. The man who is a slave to the mirror is a seeker. He is a spiritual beggar. He spends his life seeking love, seeking wealth, seeking validation, seeking help from the outer world. He believes these are things that must be acquired, earned, or won. His entire posture is one of need, of reaching, of an empty hand held out to the world. The Master, however, has ceased all seeking. He has had the ultimate revelation. You cannot seek what you are. He knows that love, abundance, and peace are not commodities, to be found in the mirror's reflection. They are attributes of his own being, the very substance of the I Am. He is not a planet seeking the light of a distant sun. He is the sunlight. His work, therefore, is not to get, but to give, not to acquire, but to overflow. He simply is the state of love, and the mirror of his world has no choice but to populate itself with loving people and circumstances. He is the state of abundance, and the world must reflect this inner security in the form of supply. The Master does not chase the reflection. He simply shines and allows the reflection to conform. The second great shift is from reacting to decreeing. The man of the world lives in a state of constant reaction. He is a puppet, and the strings are pulled by the events he sees in the mirror. Good news makes him happy. Bad news makes him sad. An insult makes him angry. A compliment makes him proud. He is tossed about on the waves of effect, believing them to be causes. The Master has severed these strings. He has become divinely indifferent to the reflection. He understands that the outer world is a world of shadows, of echoes of past states of consciousness. To react emotionally to the reflection is to give it power, to affirm its reality. When the Master sees something in his mirror he does not like, a bill, a negative comment, an unwanted symptom, he does not react with fear or anger. He does not fight the shadow. He performs the one and only creative act. He calmly turns within and asks, what state of consciousness in me has cast this reflection? His primary activity is no longer reacting, but decreeing. He decrees his reality through his assumptions. His inner conversations are not of complaint and worry, but of praise and fulfillment. He knows his words, I am, are not idle thoughts. They are divine commands. He speaks into his own heart. I am healthy. I am secure. I am loved. And he knows that this inner decree, this sustained assumption, is the one and only cause, and the reflection in the mirror must, by law, eventually fall into line. He has moved his center of authority from the outer world of effect to the inner world of cause. And the third and most profound shift is from hope to knowing. The prisoner lives on hope. He hopes things will get better. He wishes for a brighter future. But as we have discovered, hope is a confession of lack. It is a subtle form of doubt. The Master lives in a state of knowing. It is a quiet, unshakable inner certainty that transcends all logic and physical evidence. It is the feeling we explored in the original transcript, the feeling of victory. It is the calm confidence of the man who knows the game is already won. This is not arrogance. It is the natural state of the Creator who knows his own power. Do you hope that when you smile in the mirror, your reflection will smile back? Do you wish for it? No. You simply know. This is the state in which the Master lives. He assumes his desire, and he knows that the mirror must reflect it. The question of if has been banished from his vocabulary. It is replaced by the quiet authority of when, and even that is held loosely with perfect trust in the appointed hour. Let us make this practical. What does a day in the life of the Master of the Mirror actually look like? He awakens in the morning. He does not look at his phone to let the world's reflection tell him who he is or how he should feel. His first act is a creative one. Before his feet touch the floor, he decrees his day. He assumes the feeling of the day already having been perfect. Today is a day of beautiful accomplishment and joyous encounters he feels. He is not hoping. He is commanding his mirror He moves through his day. He encounters another person, perhaps one who has been difficult in the past. The old man would have reacted, bracing for conflict. The master does not. He knows this person is himself pushed out. He sees them not as they have been, but as he desires them to be. In his own mind, he revises them, sees them as kind and cooperative. He changes his concept of them, and this inner change must eventually be reflected in their behavior. He no longer tries to change people. He changes his inner portrait of them. Then, a challenge appears. A so-called problem arises, a reflection that is disharmonious with his desired state. The prisoner would panic. He would engage in frantic effort. He would fight the reflection. The master remains still. He withdraws his attention from the shadow of the problem. He does not give it his energy. Instead, he calmly turns within and asks, if this problem were already solved, what would I be feeling? And he enters that state. He assumes the feeling of the solution. He finds the inner place of relief and rest there. He knows that by removing the cause within himself, the effect in the outer world must dissolve. In the evening, the master reviews his day, but he does not judge it based on his accomplishments or failures in the outer world. He judges it on one criterion alone. How faithful was I to my ideal state? How well did I maintain the feeling of my wish fulfilled? And his nightly imaginal act is no longer a desperate plea. It is the joyful work of a great artist, putting the finishing touches on the masterpiece he is creating for the morrow. Let me tell you a final story. There was a young king who inherited a kingdom in chaos. The fields were barren, the people were despondent, and the nobles were in conflict. His council of advisors, all men of the world, came to him with maps and reports. They urged him to take action. You must raise taxes here, your majesty. You must send an army there. You must pass these new laws. They were all shouting at him to fix the reflection, but the young king had been taught by a mystic in his youth. He knew the secret of the mirror. He thanked his advisors and dismissed them. He then ascended to the highest room in the highest tower of his castle. He did not look down upon his chaotic kingdom. To do so would be to affirm its reality. Instead, he closed his eyes. Day after day, he sat in that room, and in his imagination, he walked the streets of his perfect kingdom. He saw fields overflowing with golden wheat. He saw marketplaces bustling with prosperous, happy people. He heard the sounds of children laughing, not crying. He saw his nobles working together in harmony. He did not hope for this kingdom. He lived in it. He felt the deep pride, the profound peace, the unshakable security of being the ruler of a perfect land. His advisors whispered that the king had gone mad, that he was neglecting his duties. They saw the reflection, still in disarray, and they panicked. But the king remained in his tower, loyal to his unseen reality. And then a strange and wonderful thing began to happen. A forgotten, dried-up river in the north of the kingdom inexplicably changed its course, flooding the barren plains and making them fertile again. In a distant town, two feuding noble families, enemies for generations, suddenly found a reason to reconcile. A brilliant young inventor, whom no one had ever heard of, emerged with a new technology that revitalized the kingdom's trade. Piece by piece, incident by incident, the kingdom began to transform itself, rearranging its affairs to perfectly match the sustained inner vision of the king. He had never given a single order. He had simply been, in his own consciousness, the king of a perfect kingdom, and the map of his world had no choice but to redraw itself to match the geography of his soul. You are that king. Your life is that kingdom. For too long you have been down in the council rooms, frantically trying to redraw the map of your circumstances. I am telling you to ascend to the high tower of your own consciousness. Ignore the current reports from your senses. Close your eyes to the world of effect, and in your imagination build your perfect kingdom. Dwell there, live there. and the map of your world must conform. This is the ultimate realization. The master of the mirror finally understands that all the techniques, the imaginal scenes, the feeling states, the Sabbath they were but the tools, the grammar to help him remember. But the power was never in the tool. The power is, and always was, the user. The power is your own wonderful human imagination. The power is your awareness. The power is your I am. And so you can finally declare with absolute conviction the ultimate truth of your being. I am the power. This is your graduation. This is your coronation. The journey of discovery is over and the life of mastery begins. From this moment forward, you will never again see yourself as a victim, as a seeker, as a prisoner. You are the source. You are the cause. You are the king. You are the master of the mirror. Go now, not to learn, but to be. Not to practice or to try, but to live. Let every breath you take be a quiet knowing of your power. Let every step you take be upon the soil of your own perfect kingdom. You are not a reflection. You are the reality. And your world awaits your command. And so it is. What you have heard tonight is not a lesson, but an awakening. You now hold the key to a life of freedom and deliberate creation. But the journey of mastery is one of constant remembrance and application. If you are ready to continue this journey with a community of fellow creators, to delve deeper into these truths and explore their infinite applications, then subscribe now and join us. Let this channel be your constant reminder of the power that you are. And now go forth